Greetings, pilgrims. I come to you from the chapel, or meditation room, here at Marillac Social Center, which is a social services agency inspired by Louise and her legacy. So let's settle into our stop along her story, our pilgrimage with Louise. So it was the spring of 1629, and Louise was living in Paris. She was 37 years old, a young widow with her husband's death having been about 3 years prior. And her son Michel was 17 and away studying at the seminary. And she was receiving spiritual direction from a priest named Vincent DePaul, whom she initially found repugnant, her words, not mine, but she had grown to appreciate him and his guidance. And he grew in appreciation of her too, eventually giving her a little nudge, an invitation that would shape the course of the rest of her life, and his life too, if you think about it. Vincent wrote her a letter inviting her to join him in visiting the confraternities of charity in Montmirail, which were parish-based charitable groups made up of wealthy lay women who assisted the poor in various ways. And Vincent wrote, "Father de Gondi sent me word to come by coach to see him in Montmirail. That will perhaps prevent me from having the honor of seeing you, because I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Do you feel like coming, mademoiselle?" Evidently, she did feel like coming, and she traveled to visit the charitable works, reviewing the functioning of the confraternity, its finances, and the role of each of its members, even asking about the members' spiritual life. She would also visit the poor, especially taking interest in the education of young girls. And after each visit, she would send a report to Vincent. So a question from Vincent, "Do you feel like coming, mademoiselle?" became the answer to the rest of her life. Often we're invited by others to try something new, perhaps go outside our comfort zones and embark on a journey to the unknown. Sometimes others see things in us that we haven't discovered within ourselves quite yet. Louise was discerning what was next in her life as a young widow. Her son was away at school. She had a passion for service and a deep, deep spirituality. And she was comforted by that Lumiere experience about 6 years prior. Do you remember that stop on the pilgrimage? She was desiring to discover and know God's will. And perhaps Vincent saw her leadership potential, her organizational skills, her passion for not only charitable works, but desire for unity with our Lord and others in that charity. Vincent sent the invitation, that little nudge perhaps, and she said yes. She took the risk of answering that call, trusting in God's providence, and we'll have to continue our pilgrimage to see what happened next. I know in my own life, it was the nudges and invitations from others that led me to where I am today. Each yes to something new, or what I hadn't originally planned, was a step toward discovering and following God's will. People asked me if I ever considered being a sister, long before I ever thought of it. I was invited to be in a play about the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, and I was even casted as a daughter of charity, and that helped me discover the Vincentian charism. Then I was invited to live at a Catholic worker house, serving in the spirit of Dorothy Day, sharing life with women and children in need of a home, and that helped me to discover Christ among us. And after joining the Daughters of Charity and completing my more intensive formation period in the seminary, I was sent on mission by the community, sent with this same blessing from Vincent to Louise before her very first trip to Montmirail so many years ago. Go therefore, mademoiselle, go in the name of our Lord. I pray that his divine goodness may accompany you, be your consolation along the way, your shade against the heat of the sun, your shelter in rain and cold, your soft bed in your weariness, your strength in your toil, and finally, that he may bring you back in perfect health and filled with good works." So as we reflect on this moment in the life of Louise, her own sending on mission, if you will, perhaps you can recall moments in your life that were the little nudges, those invitations that ultimately led you to where you are today. Louise didn't know how this yes to Vincent's invitation and journey out of town would set the course for the rest of her life. So pay attention to the nudges from people, events, and circumstances of your daily life. Invitations to try something new, to step outside your comfort zone. Those moments can help uncover gifts or talents you might have never discovered. Gifts and talents the world so desperately needs. And now you get to share them, responding to that call of loving service. So do you feel like coming? Let's continue walking this pilgrimage and see what happens next. Buen camino!